There was a time when a young boy named Stephen sat before the flickering light of a projector. While others saw only images, he heard something else, a voice, silent but clear. It didn't come from the film. It came from within. Every frame, every shadow whispered to him that imagination is prayer in motion. The world called it fantasy, but perhaps it was faith in disguise, because imagination is the language of the divine, spoken fluently only by those who still remember heaven. Stephen grew up surrounded by disbelief, rejection, and doubt. Yet, in the quiet hours of the night, when the world was asleep, he studied what the ancients once called the tools of God, 3 invisible instruments, used by prophets, kings, and creators who shaped destiny itself. They were vision, to see beyond what is; faith in motion, to act before the proof; creative obedience, to surrender to the higher call. These were the principles the powerful tried to bury, because those who learned them no longer serve the system. They build a new one. There is a moment before creation when silence itself holds its breath. In that stillness, God whispers a single word. See. It is not the eyes that see first. It is the soul. And those who respond to that whisper become architects of worlds. Steven Spielberg was one of them. As a child, he was not surrounded by power or privilege. He was surrounded by noise, disbelief, misunderstanding, and the unkind laughter of those who couldn't hear what he heard. While other children played with toys, he studied light. He noticed how it bent through windows, how it carried emotion, how it could transform even the most ordinary moment into something sacred. He didn't know it yet, but he was already speaking the first language of God: vision. Vision is the first of the divine tools. It is the seed from which all creation emerges. It does not ask what is possible. It asks only, what is true within me that demands to be seen? Spielberg's childhood was a storm: rejection, alienation, insecurity. But divine storms have purpose. They shake loose the false identities until only truth remains. And in the solitude of that struggle, something ancient awakened inside him. The ability to see not the world as it was, but as it could become. He built his first film not from resources, but from faith. A few friends, a borrowed camera, and a wild belief that imagination could touch eternity. That is the essence of vision, to step into emptiness and know that the unseen will rise to meet you. When Stephen filmed Firelight, his first feature-length project as a teenager, he wasn't just telling a story about aliens and wonder. He was documenting the law of vision itself, the divine truth that what you project inwardly will one day materialize outwardly. Every frame he created was a conversation with the unseen. He wasn't chasing success, he was translating revelation. He felt guided, almost moved by a force that seemed to direct his lens. And each time he obeyed that inner pull, doors opened that logic could never explain. Vision is not given to everyone, not because God withholds it, but because few are willing to carry its weight. To see the future is to walk misunderstood through the present. To hold a divine picture in your heart while surrounded by doubt is to stand between heaven and earth, translating the infinite into form. That is what Spielberg did. He once said, "I dream for a living." But those dreams were not fantasies. They were blueprints, sacred architectures waiting for matter to obey. Think of this. Before Jaws terrified the world, it existed in the invisible. Before E.T. taught humanity to love what is strange, that story lived only in the heart of a man who believed the unseen was more real than the visible. Before Schindler's List carried millions into the depths of compassion and conscience, there was only one man with a vision too heavy for most to hold. That is vision, to carry light into the darkness until it becomes visible. But vision does not work alone. It tests the bearer. It asks, will you believe when no one else sees? It demands patience, endurance, Faith, because reality moves slowly to meet divine imagination. When young Spielberg was rejected by the University of Southern California, not once, but 3 times, most would have stopped. But vision does not negotiate with rejection. It listens to a higher call. He walked onto the Universal Studios lot without a pass, dressed like a worker, and simply stayed. He built his future not with permission, but with conviction. Because when vision burns in your heart, no gatekeeper can bar your entry. Those who possess vision are never merely lucky. They are aligned. They are conduits through which the eternal expresses itself in time. When Spielberg looked through the lens, he didn't just frame a scene, he framed a reality. He invited God to collaborate, and together they built new worlds. Vision is the first divine tool because it awakens the sleeping architect within you. It calls you to remember that the universe responds not to your situation, but to your sight. The greatest poverty is not lack of money, it is lack of vision. And the richest souls are not those who own, but those who see. Every great work, every empire, every miracle begins in the same sacred space, the inner screen of a human mind illuminated by faith. That's where Spielberg lived long before the world knew his name. He was rehearsing eternity, one image at a time. In truth, he was never just making movies. He was teaching us to remember how to see again, to believe in the invisible, to imagine the impossible, to feel the presence of something greater directing our gaze toward meaning. For the one who carries, vision carries God's own blueprint. And when he lifts his eyes to create, he's no longer merely human. He becomes the mirror through which the Creator beholds himself. That is the first tool, and it is still alive, waiting for those brave enough to look within and see. Before there was fame, before fortune, before the name Spielberg echoed through cinema halls, there was a boy who walked, guided not by sight but by faith. Faith is the second tool. If vision is the spark, faith is the motion that turns the unseen into the seen. It is the willingness to step where there is no floor yet and trust that the ground will rise to meet your feet. When Stephen's vision began to take shape, the path ahead did not open easily. He faced rejection after rejection. He was told no so many times that it would have broken any ordinary man. But those who carry divine vision are not ordinary. They are sculpted by resistance. Each no became his furnace. Each closed door, a mirror reminding him to return inward, to the whisper that said, walk. Faith in motion is not passive belief. It is action born from certainty, even when logic collapses. It is the unseen force that bends reality. When Spielberg was denied admission to film school 3 times, the world expected him to quit. But he understood the law. If God plants the vision, the world cannot stop the harvest. So he took a step, small, bold, sacred. He walked onto the Universal Studios lot, uninvited, unnoticed. And in that audacious act, faith became flesh. He wore a suit too big for him, carried a briefcase with nothing inside, and pretended he belonged. For days, he wandered those sets, watching, learning, absorbing. He studied cameras, sound stages, the rhythm of creation itself. He was not waiting for opportunity. He was moving toward it. And the universe, obedient to motion, began to respond. One afternoon, a producer noticed him, a boy who didn't seem to fit, yet somehow belonged. Spielberg didn't flinch. He spoke as if he were already part of the studio. He had stepped so deeply into his destiny, the reality had no choice but to comply. Faith doesn't ask how. It moves, and how is revealed along the way. That is the second divine law. Reality rearranges itself around unwavering movement. Later, when he created Jaws, he faced chaos, malfunctioning mechanical sharks, budget disasters, storms that destroyed sets. Everything that could go wrong did. But faith in motion doesn't collapse under circumstance. It transforms it. Spielberg kept filming, improvising, adapting, inventing new cinematic language in the process. He later said, "Every obstacle taught me a new way to believe." That's the hidden beauty of divine faith. It doesn't remove obstacles. It turns them into teachers. When he filmed Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he was again misunderstood. Many said it was too spiritual, too strange. But he knew that creation is a covenant between the Creator and the one who dares to move before understanding. He trusted that what was invisible to others would one day awaken them, and it did. The law of unseen steps is this: when you walk in faith, your footsteps echo in eternity, long before they touch the ground. You are heard by the heavens before you are seen by the world. Every legendary creator has obeyed this law. Abraham leaving his homeland, Moses stepping into the Red Sea, and Spielberg walking through the gates of Universal without permission. Each one moved before the miracle. Faith is movement before evidence. It is the refusal to wait for permission to live what has already been promised. In spiritual architecture, vision is the blueprint, but faith is the hand that begins to build while the ink is still drying. And every motion made in faith draws divine attention. The Creator cannot resist responding to creation in motion. That's why doors opened for Spielberg that logic couldn't explain. He didn't manipulate them, he magnetized them. Because motion is the highest form of prayer. When belief walks, God runs. Years later, as he became a giant in cinema, people called it luck. They saw the results, not the invisible years of walking through rejection, fear, and uncertainty. But the divine knows. Every step he took in darkness built a bridge of light. You can almost imagine it. A young man walking alone through studio backlots at sunset. The hum of distant cameras around him, his shadow long and golden, stretching toward a future only he could see. Each footstep a whisper of faith. I belong here. I was sent here. I will create what I have seen. And the universe, ever listening, answered. Then so it shall be. This is the second tool. Faith in motion. Not the faith of waiting, but the faith of walking. Not the faith that hopes, but the faith that knows. It is divine courage dressed as action. It is belief made visible through movement. It is the law that transforms thought into form. And the truth is simple yet infinite. The vision you hold will remain asleep until you move. But the moment you take the first step, even trembling, the unseen begins to organize around your courage. That is how worlds are built. That is how destinies unfold. And that is how a young boy who once heard whispers in the dark became the voice of modern myth. Not because he waited for signs, but because he walked as if they were already given. Faith in motion is not just a principle. It is a divine rhythm. Every heartbeat is a drumbeat of creation. Every step taken in faith echoes back as miracles. So a vision was the light. Then faith is the movement of that light through time, illuminating every path where the brave dare to walk unseen. There is a moment in every creator's life when vision and faith are not enough. When the tools that once opened doors begin to tremble in your hands. When the voice that once whispered clearly goes silent. That silence is not punishment. It is invitation. Because the third divine tool, creative obedience, can only be learned when the ego finally bows. It is not about control. It is about alignment. It is the moment when the artist stops saying, "I will create," and begins to whisper, "Let creation move through me." After Spielberg had achieved the impossible success, fame, power, he stood at the edge of a deeper abyss. Meaning, he had conquered the outer world, but something within him began to ache again. It was the same voice that had called him as a child, only now it asked for surrender. Because divine creativity does not ask for achievement. It asks for obedience. The obedience of listening. The obedience of letting go. The obedience of trusting that your art is not yours. It is God's idea, dressed in your fingerprints. When he began Schindler's List, Spielberg confessed that he was terrified. It was not entertainment. It was sacred ground. For the first time, he felt that he was not making a film. He was being used by something greater to tell a truth, too heavy for one man, every day on set. He said he felt a presence. There were moments when actors wept between takes, not from performance, but from something unexplainable, as if the souls of the dead were speaking through the light, through the lens, through him. That is creative obedience, when the artist becomes the instrument, when the mind quiets and the eternal begins to speak through human form. He didn't fight it. He let it flow. He said he would film in black and white, not because it was fashionable, but because it was revealed to him. He said he felt guided in every frame, every silence, every pause. He wasn't directing, he was listening. And that's the essence of this third law. Creation does not happen when you impose your will. It happens when you release it. There is a paradox in divine creation. The more you surrender, the more powerful you become. Because the Creator does not fill a vessel already full of itself. Only emptiness can be filled with infinity. In those months of filming, Spielberg experienced a transformation. The same boy who once chased light through projectors now carried sacred light through human pain. He began to understand that cinema, at its highest level, was not about success. It was about service. And when Schindler's List was released, something extraordinary happened. Audiences didn't just watch it, they felt it. They wept, they prayed, they remembered. The film became more than a story. It became a collective cleansing. That is the power of obedience. It channels healing beyond comprehension. But even after that, he wasn't done learning. When he made Saving Private Ryan, he again faced the divine demand. Surrender to what is true, not what is safe. The opening battle scene, brutal, raw, almost unbearable, was not shot to impress. It was shot to honor truth, to feel the sacred cost of human life. And again, obedience guided the hand. Creative obedience is not passive. It is the most courageous act of all. Because to obey a higher voice, you must silence the 1,000 lower ones. The voices of ego, of doubt, of the crowd. Every artist, every builder, every visionary faces this moment. When the question comes, will you serve your fear or will you serve the call? Obedience means saying yes, even when the destination is invisible. It is the same law that led Noah to build a ship under clear skies. The same faith that led Moses to strike a rock for water. The same surrender that allowed Spielberg to hold a camera like a cross. When he was asked what drives him, he once replied, "I listen to whispers." That is not metaphor. That is obedience. Because true creation is never loud. It begins in stillness, in the humility to say, "I am listening." There is a divine rhythm to all of this. Vision gives the dream. Faith begins the journey. But obedience allows the dream to become truth. When a creator stops trying to impress and starts trying to express the will of something larger, the work becomes immortal. Every frame of Schindler's List carries that signature. Every note of E.T. holds that same divine pulse, the call of home, the longing of the soul for its origin. Every shadow, every light, every silence became prayer disguised as cinema. And here lies the greatest paradox of all. The moment Spielberg surrendered control, his mastery became divine. He was no longer shaping the light, he was following it. That is the third and final tool. The secret they tried to bury. Because a human who creates in obedience to the divine is unstoppable. You can take away his resources, his platform, even his recognition, but you cannot take the source that moves through him. Creative obedience is the language of the mystic creator. It is Michelangelo carving what God already saw in marble. It is Beethoven composing what heaven was already singing. It is Spielberg filming what the divine had already imagined. It is not submission and weakness. It is surrender and power. Because only when the artist vanishes can the eternal appear. And so, when you create, remember this. Do not force the masterpiece. Let it descend. Do not demand revelation. Become quiet enough to hear it. For those who obey the call, the universe bends its ear, and through them, eternity finds its voice. That is creative obedience, the art of surrendering to the call. Success. The word has been drained, twisted, corrupted. Men chase it, worship it, sell their souls for it. But few ever understand it. Because true success, the kind that bends time and echoes through eternity, is not achieved. It is revealed. And it is revealed only to those who build with divine architecture. After vision, after faith, after obedience, comes construction. Not of buildings, not of films, but of worlds. Every masterpiece is a temple. Every great work, a reflection of sacred geometry, unseen order hidden behind apparent chaos. Steven Spielberg, the storyteller of wonder and loss, became not just a filmmaker, but a builder of emotional universes. He did not design them from ambition, but from alignment. He understood what the ancients knew, that everything lasting is built on invisible foundations, and the first foundation of divine success is service. The world teaches us to ask, what can I gain? The divine asks, whom can I serve? In every frame, in every story, Spielberg served humanity's longing to remember innocence, courage, empathy, and the invisible thread that connects us all. He wasn't merely creating entertainment. He was constructing bridges between worlds. When he told the story of E.T., it was not just about an alien longing for home. It was about the human soul longing for God. When he crafted Jurassic Park, it wasn't merely spectacle. It was a parable of creation, control, and consequence. And in Saving Private Ryan, he translated divine sacrifice into the language of men. Because divine success is not the number of eyes that watch you. It's the number of souls that awaken through you. The second pillar of sacred success is structure. Even divine inspiration requires a vessel strong enough to hold it. The ocean of creativity must find its shore. Spielberg's genius was not only in seeing and feeling, it was in structuring chaos into order. Each frame, each rhythm, each pause was architecture. He was building cathedrals out of moving light. Structure without soul is machinery, but soul without structure is madness. The divine demands both. The pulse of heaven inside the blueprint of time. That is why true mastery feels inevitable, because it follows an unseen pattern older than civilization. The third pillar of divine success is integrity. Not morality, but alignment. The harmony between thought, word, and action. Between what the soul knows and what the body does. Spielberg refused to betray that alignment. He didn't chase trends. He listened, he waited, he obeyed. He made films that needed to exist, not those that were convenient. And the universe honors that kind of integrity. It multiplies the voice of those who walk in truth. It expands the reach of those who move without deceit. Because divine architecture cannot rest upon fractured foundations. Integrity is the sacred tension that keeps greatness upright. Remove it, and the temple collapses. The fourth pillar is humility. The recognition that you are not the architect, only the hands that draw. Even after all his success, Spielberg often said, "Every time I begin a film, I feel like I'm starting again." That is not insecurity. That is sacred awareness. Because each creation is a new covenant, and every covenant demands renewed surrender. Humility is the golden thread that ties greatness to grace. Without it, the work becomes hollow. With it, The work becomes eternal dot, and finally, the fifth pillar, gratitude. Not the polite gratitude of words, but the living gratitude of awareness. The constant knowing that everything you create is borrowed light. When Spielberg looked back on his life, he often spoke about the mysterious alignments, the moments when everything fell into place as if guided. That is not luck. That is divine architecture revealing itself, because gratitude unlocks the next blueprint. The thankful heart becomes the next site of creation. The grateful creator never runs out of miracles, because gratitude itself is the highest vibration of abundance. When the ancient builders erected temples, they did not begin with stone. They began with prayer. And so does every master. Success, in the divine sense, is not fame. It is fidelity. It is how faithfully you've translated the unseen into the seen. It is how much of heaven you have managed to smuggle into the human experience. Look at Spielberg's work again through this lens, and you'll see it. The sacred patterns, the divine ratios, the emotional geometry. Every frame, every sound, every silence was a beam and a structure the soul could enter and feel safe. Because divine success does not shout. It shelters. It protects. It endures dot, and if you listen closely, you can still hear the echo of the first whisper that began his journey. That quiet, celestial voice saying, "See, walk, surrender, build." That is the sequence of creation. That is the hidden architecture of divine success. The world celebrates what is seen, the awards, the wealth, the applause. But heaven measures something different. The obedience of the hands, the purity of the intention, the alignment of the heart. True success is the moment when your work becomes a temple others can enter and remember who they are. That is what Spielberg built. Not films, but sanctuaries of light dot. And if you wish to build your own, remember this. Vision ignites. Faith moves. Obedience channels. But only divine structure sustains dot. Do not chase crowns made of noise. Build temples of silence. For in that silence, God speaks again. There comes a point when every seeker, every visionary, every builder of worlds must return to the beginning. Not to repeat it, but to remember it. Because after vision, faith, obedience, and the architecture of success, there remains one final step, the return. The return to the source. The return to the silence from which all creation emerges. This is the law that few understand. The greater the light you hold, the more you must return to the one who gave it. After decades of mastery, of triumphs and storms, Spielberg began to see his own story not as a career, but as a circle. Every film, every image, every tear was a step around that circle, a pilgrimage back to where it all began. A boy sitting in the flicker of a projector, listening to God speak in light, because that boy never disappeared. He only grew quiet enough to hear again. The return of the Creator is not about retirement. It is about remembrance. It is about realizing that you were never the source, only the instrument through which the source sings. When Spielberg made The Fabelmans, he finally turned the lens inward. After decades of telling the world stories, he told his own, a confession disguised as a foe, a prayer disguised as cinema. It wasn't nostalgia. It was integration. The man and the boy became one. The visionary returned to the vision itself, because true mastery is not in expansion, it is in completion. To become infinite, one must become whole. He realized something most spend a lifetime chasing, that the final creation is not a movie, not a masterpiece. It is the self, made luminous through surrender. The Creator must return to the mirror and see not himself, but the divine reflecting back. That is the ultimate secret of creation. God creates through those who remember they are his instruments. The moment you stop claiming ownership, the light flows freely again. It is no longer my work or my art. It becomes his expression through me. This is the highest frequency of creation, when the artist vanishes and only the light remains. You can see it in his later interviews. The serenity, the calm, the still wonder of a man who is seen behind the curtain. He no longer needed to prove, to conquer, or to compete. He had entered the sacred state of transmission. In this final state, creation becomes worship. Every frame is prayer. Every word is incense. Every silence becomes the sound of eternity breathing. The ancients called it divine union. The mystics called it illumination. The moderns call it flow. But all of them speak of the same reality, when the finite merges with the infinite, and the creator becomes creation itself. Spielberg reached this state not by escaping the world, but by fully entering it, by using every emotion, every failure, every triumph as material for awakening. This is what it means to return. To remember that every story, even your own, was never about you. It was always about the light moving through you. When he stands behind the camera now, his hands tremble not from age, but from awe, because he knows the miracle never belonged to him. He was chosen to carry it, to translate it, to reveal it. And that is the destiny of all creators who walk the sacred path. To begin as seekers, to become vessels, and to end as mirrors through which the divine sees itself anew. In the end, the creator returns home, not to the world, but to God. And in that homecoming, all creation finds peace, because art is the bridge between the infinite and the human. And the one who walks that bridge long enough becomes the bridge itself. That is why Spielberg's greatest creation was not his films, it was his consciousness. He became what he portrayed, the believer, the dreamer, the one who never lost his wonder. His life whispers the ultimate truth. You were never meant to create to be seen. You were meant to create to remember. And when you remember, you become the light that once inspired you. This is the return of the creator. It is the realization that the distance between God and man was never real. That the muse you've been chasing has always been your own soul calling you back home. Every great visionary will face this moment. When success fades, applause quiets, and silence returns. But in that silence, the source waits, smiling. Because only when the noise stops can he speak again. And when he does, it sounds like this. You were never creating alone. That is the revelation of Chapter 5. The final tool is not a tool at all. It is union. When you no longer act for God, but as God in expression. When you realize that creation itself is prayer, and you are its voice. So remember, you are not separate from the light you seek. You are its continuation. You are its echo. You are its chosen vessel. And when you return to that knowing, you do not create to impress. You create to illuminate. That is the return of the creator. The circle complete. The boy who saw the light, becoming the light itself. And so, the circle closes. From the boy who sat before a trembling beam of light, to the man who learned to become that light. The journey was never about cinema. It was about creation itself. Vision taught him to see beyond what is. Faith taught him to walk when the ground was not yet formed. Obedience taught him to listen when the ego wanted to shout. Structure taught him to build not for glory, but for eternity. And return, the final grace, taught him to disappear, so the divine could finally be seen. That is the hidden pattern behind all greatness. The secret they tried to bury. Because if every human remembered that they too are a vessel of God, no system could ever own them again. Look around you. The same light that spoke to the child Spielberg is speaking to you now. Not through words, but through calling. It calls every time your heart aches for something unseen. Every time you imagine, dream, or wonder, what if? Every time you feel that pulse of destiny beating louder than reason. That is not ambition. That is remembrance. For the tools of God were never locked away in temples. They were placed inside you before you were born. Vision, faith, obedience, structure, return. 5 divine codes. 5 flames burning quietly within the soul of every creator, every builder, every seeker who dares to remember that creation is prayer. Spielberg's life was proof. He used cameras the way prophets use fire, to show the world what light looks like when it believes in itself. And now, the story passes to you. You who still sense that something larger breathes through you. You who know that your gift is not random. You who feel that your purpose is not ambition. It is service. So, take the tools. Hold them. Use them. Not to chase crowns of noise, but to build temples of silence. Temples made of words, of music, of movement. Of the quiet certainty that God still creates through hands like yours. And one day, when your work has touched the lives it was meant to reach, you too will return. Not to the dust, but to the light that first called your name. Because creation does not end. It simply changes form. Light becomes story. Story becomes memory. Memory becomes eternity. And eternity becomes you. So when the world grows dark and the noise of doubt grows loud, remember the boy who listened to the projector. Remember the man who followed the whisper. Remember that you are not the light's observer. You are its continuation. That is the truth hidden beneath all art. All genius, all wonder. God still speaks, but only through those who are willing to listen. And if you have listened this far, perhaps you were never watching a story about Steven Spielberg. Perhaps you were watching a story about yourself.